السابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار والذين اتبعوهم بإحسان.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. Today then we arrive at Hadith number 12, the Hadith of Abu Hurairah رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعنيه. حديث حسن رواه الترمذي وغيره هكذا. In this hadith, Abu Hurairah, the famous companion, radiyallahu anhu, says that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, from the good of the Islam of a person is that he leaves that which does not concern him. From the goodness of the Islam of a person is that he leaves that which does not concern him. Al-Imam At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah ta'ala reported or collected this hadith and other than him, and he said that the hadith is Hasan, and the Hasan hadith is the hadith slightly lower in level than the Sahih hadith, but it is from the types of hadith that are authentic and they are acceptable. So in this narration then, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam highlights to us an affair that will perfect our religion. From the perfection of the religion of a person, min tamam dinihi, is that he does not engage in affairs that have nothing to do with him. Min husni islamil mar'i, ay min tamami dinihi, فدل على أن الدين يكون تاما ويكون ناقصا بحسب تصرفات صاحبه. This means that the religion of a person can be complete and it can be deficient depending on the behaviors of that person, depending on how that believer behaves and what he does, what he says, his actions, his deeds. His religion could be considered complete and good, or it could be considered as deficient because of his actions. وَالْمُسْلِمُ يَهْتَمُّ بِإِكْمَالِ دِينِهِ وَيَحْذَرُ مِمَّا يُنْقِصُهُ. And the Muslim should always be striving to make sure that his religion is upon perfection and upon completion and goodness. A Muslim should always be striving to have his religion upon that perfection and should always be careful, precautious from falling into things that cause or create deficiency in his religion. قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم تركه ما لا يعنيه, to leave, that he should leave that which does not concern him. ومما ينقص دين الإنسان أنه يتدخل فيما ليس من شؤونه وليس من اختصاصه ولم يوكل إليه لا من ناحية الشرع ولا من ناحية الخلق والذين أو الخالق والذي ينبغي على الإنسان أن يعتني بدينه ولا يعتني بما ليس له فيه فائدة أو ليس مكلفا بالبحث فيه. So when the messenger said تركه ما لا يعنيه, that he should leave that which does not concern him, Shaykh Al-Fawzan says, from the types of things that cause a deficiency within the religion of a person is that he gets involved in things that are not for him to be involved in. He is not the one who has understanding and comprehension of that affair. Neither is he the one who has been given the responsibility to do so. Maybe a person may say, but I am educated and have a knowledge of this affair and I need to be involved in it. But the Shaykh says after that, وَلَمْ يُوكَلْ إِلَيْهِ, that this affair may not have been put in your trust to deal with in the first place. So either it could be that a person isn't qualified in that affair in the first place, or it's none of his business in the first place, and he has not been given the responsibility to delve into it. Or it could be that even if a person has awareness of that affair, but he has not been given the responsibility to delve into it. So once again, leave it, and it does not concern you. لا من ناحية الشرع, neither from the perspective of the legislation, ولا من ناحية الخلق or الخالق, what does it say in your copies? الخلق, and neither from the aspect of creation, in the creational aspect, that neither have you been given responsibility of this affair legislatively, Islamically speaking. You got nothing to do with this particular issue. Nor min nahiyatil khalq, meaning from the worldly angle, from this person, that person, this company, this whatever. In the worldly sense, you have nothing to do with that particular issue either. وَالَّذِي يَنْبَغِي عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ أَنْ يَعْتَنِيَ بِدِينِهِ وَلَا يَعْتَنِيَ بِمَا لَيْسَ لَهُ فِيهِ فَائِدَةٌ. And what is appropriate and required of a believer is that he engages himself in that which is suitable and appropriate and beneficial for his religion, and does not engage himself in those affairs that have no benefit for you. You get yourself busy in affairs that are going to benefit you, and you don't busy yourself and preoccupy yourself in affairs that are not going to benefit you. أو ليس مكلفا بالبحث فيه, or getting involved in things that you have not been burdened with. The religion has not burdened you with or put the responsibility upon you to go and get involved in X, Y, and Z. Then don't do so. Why waste your time on affairs that the religion does not require you to get involved in? So, ما ليس مكلفا بالبحث فيه, affairs that you have not been given burden or responsibility to go and research into, then do not waste your time in them. فبذلك يستريح ويريح الناس أيضا. And if you do that, meaning that you don't get yourself involved in affairs that legislatively you don't need to be involved in, neither in any creational sense is there any responsibility upon you specifically to be involved in them. And neither have you been burdened or given responsibility to research into those affairs, then if you were to just leave them and not get involved, leave that which doesn't concern you, then you yourself, yastarih, you would be able to be at comfort yourself. Because you wouldn't be at comfort if you have to go research this, research that, look into this, look into that, spend so much time doing all of this, and there is no burden upon you to do so. Leave it and relax. Yastarih. Leave it and relax yourself. But not only that, but you will then allow others to be able to relax. Because if you are involving yourself in that affair, and then as a consequence you're dragging other people into that affair, then it's causing a problem for everybody. You leave it in the first place and relax, then in that way you're not dragging anybody else into it. They can all relax. يستريح ويريح. يستريح ويريح الناس أيضا. فلو أن الناس سلكوا هذا المسلك العظيم لحصل الوئام والوفاق والمحبة. So if only the people, if the people tread upon that methodology, that you don't get yourself involved into affairs that you have no reason or need to be involved in, if the people tread upon that methodology, this great methodology, then it would bring about much comfort and much conformity and harmony and love between the people. There would be much harmony between people if people didn't go and start getting involved in affairs that has no reason for you to be involved in and then dragging others into it. ولكن يأتي بعض الفضوليين فيتدخل في أشياء ليست من اختصاصه وليس مكلفا بالبحث فيها. But some al-fuduliyin, some time wasters, they come and they get involved in affairs that is not their speciality, nor have they been given any responsibility or burden to get involved in that particular affair. فيسأل أسئلة كثيرة لا يحتاج إليها. So then they start getting involved in these affairs and asking all types of questions about that affair where they have no reason or need to be asking all of those matters. مثل, for example, the Shaykh says, البحث في الوقائع والحوادث التي وقعت. For example, researching into various affairs that occur from the worldly matters, various issues and affairs that take place, then you getting involved in this one and that one, and I'm going to research this topic and that topic, and what happened here and what really happened in that country, and getting involved in all of these affairs that occur, al-waqa'i' wal-hawadith allati waqa'at wa huwa laysa mu'ahhalan aw laysa mukallafan. And that person either may not be qualified to do so, or he is not burdened to get involved, even if he is qualified. He may not be burdened or given responsibility or duty to be getting involved in that. إما أنه ليس مؤهلا لإدراك أحكامها ومقاصدها. So either the person is not qualified and he doesn't fully grasp and understand the intricacies of that particular affair, أو أنه مؤهل, or maybe somebody is qualified, لكنه غير مكلف بهذا الشيء, but he is not burdened, the responsibility of burden is not upon him to go and get involved, even if he's qualified. وكان ذلك شيء خاصا بأهل الحل والعقد, because that particular issue may be something specific to أهل الحل والعقد. Who are they? أهل الحل والعقد, it refers to the scholars and the authorities, the scholars and the rulers. That there may be certain affairs that are only for the scholars and the rulers. كان ذلك شيء خاصا بأهل الحل والعقد. It may be something specific to the scholars and the rulers and those in authority to deal with. So it is not for you to involve yourself in all of these affairs. وَمِن ذَلِكَ مَا يَدُورُ بَيْنَ الشَّبَابِ. And the Shaykh says an example of this is what happens between the youth. وَبَيْنَ كَثِيرٍ مِّنَ النَّاسِ فِي الْمَجَالِسِ. And amongst many people in their gatherings, مِن تَنَاوُلِ أُمُورٍ تَحْدُثُ وَتَحْتَاجُ إِلَى نَظَرٍ مِن قِبَلِ وُلَاةِ الْأُمُورِ وَالْعُلَمَاءِ وَأَهْلِ الشَّأْنِ. That many of the youth or many of the people generally, they get involved in their gatherings talking about and getting involved in affairs that require looking into from the rulers and the scholars and the people of authority and speciality in that affair. They are the ones who need to look into it, yet amongst the shabab and the people in their gatherings, they get themselves involved in speech regarding it. ثم يتدخل فيها من لا يحسنها وليس مكلفا بالدخول فيها. Then those who are not good at this particular affair, don't understand the intricacies of it, they get themselves involved in it and they are not given any responsibility or burden upon them to have to do that, yet they insist and get involved. والدخول فيها يفضي إلى حدوث بلبلة وسوء فهم. And as a consequence of them getting involved in these affairs, it creates the balbala, like chaos, you could say, words along that type of meaning, that it creates all of this discomfort and chaos and chatter and talk and all of these affairs between the people, وسوء فهم, and misunderstandings. أو يشيع المحظور بين الناس وكان المفروض أنه يستر كما قال تعالى وإذا جاءهم أمر من الأمن أو الخوف أذاعوا به. Or they may start to disseminate certain information that was not supposed to be disseminated. They may start to disseminate certain information that wasn't supposed to be disseminated, maybe from the angle of the rulers and the scholars and the people in authority. Certain things weren't meant for public consumption, as they say. And yet the people, they get involved and they want to expose this or mention this or bring that out. كان المفروض أن يستر. It was required maybe in certain circumstances for certain things to be kept quiet. As Shaykh Abdullah Bukhari always says, ليس كل ما يعلم يقال. Not everything you know has to be said. Not everything you know has to be said. There are things that you know, you keep them to yourself. There's no need to spread them. Not everything you know needs to be spread. So on certain things it may be that it needs to be kept quiet. وَإِذَا جَاءَهُمْ أَمْرٌ مِّنَ الْأَمْنِ وَالْخَوْفِ أَذَاعُوا بِهِ. It's mentioned about these people that when some affair comes to them of fear or safety, then they spread it. أي نشروه وَلَوْ رَدُّوهُ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ. And if they were to return it back to the messenger, الرَّدُّ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ فِي حَيَاتِهِ الرَّدُّ إِلَيْهِ شَخْصِيًّا. And the meaning of if they were only to return it back to the messenger when he was alive, the meaning of that is for the companions to physically go back to the messenger and return that affair to him, rather than getting involved in talking. Return the affair to him. And after he has died, أما بعد وفاته فإن الرد يكون إلى سنته. After the death of the Prophet ﷺ, then you return those affairs back to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. وهذا من شأن العلماء هم الذين يحسنون الرد إلى سنة الرسول. And this is an important point as well. So we say that you return these matters back to the messenger, back to the sunnah, but even then it requires the involvement of the scholars, because only will they be able to properly understand how to return that affair to the sunnah, i.e. how to extract the proper and correct rulings from the sunnah for this particular affair. You may return it back to the Sunnah but still not understand how to extract the ruling. Or you may not even know half of the ahadith that you're supposed to be looking at in this particular issue. The scholars would. So even there, the scholars are required in terms of returning it back for them to extract the evidences. هُمُ الَّذِينَ يُحْسِنُونَ الرَّدِّ. They are the ones who are good at being able to return those affairs and therefore extract the evidences. وَإِلَى أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ. And to return it back to the rulers and the people in authority. And they are من العلماء ومن الساسة والقادة. The scholars, the people in authority, the people in charge. وأصحاب السياسة. And those involved in the politics, meaning the ones in authority running the affairs. الذين يمارسون هذه الأشياء. Because they are the people who have first-hand experience of these things. And that's why Shaykh Rabi' Hafidhahullah ta'ala also mentioned in his explanation of Usul-Sunnah of Imam Ahmad. At one point he mentioned, you cannot, as the Khawarij do, you cannot start criticizing the rulers at every single thing that you see which seemingly seems like, looks like it's opposing the Sunnah. You can't start criticizing them straight away. Because in certain affairs there is an element of leeway in the Sunnah. It may not be haram what they are doing or impermissible what they are doing. And there may be reasons as to why they chose a certain course of action that you are not privy to. You do not know the reasons as to why they chose a particular course of action, because you are not the one, الَّذِينَ يُمَارِسُونَ. You are not the one who has first-hand experience of having to deal with all of those affairs. وَيَصْدُرُونَ فِيهَا عَنْ رَأْيٍ وَيَكُونُ لِتَدَخُّلِهِمْ فِيهَا فَائِدَةٌ وَحُلُولٌ. So those people in authority, they give their opinion about the affair, and them being involved in that affair, that's what brings about the benefit and the solution. أما الإنسان العادي الذي ليس مؤهلا ولا مكلفا فإن دخوله فيها يفسدها ويحدث التشكيك بين الناس في أقوال أهل العلم وأهل الرأي وأهل المشورة، وقد يخوض في أهل العلم وولاة الأمور ويدعي أنهم لا يحسنون وأنهم ويشيع ذلك بين الناس كما هو الواقع الآن، وهذا من نقص دين الإنسان. As for the Shaykh says, a common person, meaning a person who's not from the scholars, who's not from the rulers, who's not from the authorities, from the general folk, the civilians, a common person getting involved who is ليس مؤهلا, he is not qualified, وليس ولا مكلفا, and he's not being given that responsibility or burden on his shoulders, فَإِنَّ دُخُولَهُ فِيهَا يُفْسِدُهَا. Then him entering into those affairs creates corruption in that matter. وَيُحْدِثُ التَّشْكِيكِ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. And it will bring about doubt amongst the people. Doubt in what? It will bring about doubt amongst the people in regards to فِي أَقْوَالِ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ, in regards to the statements of the scholars. People will start to doubt what the scholars are saying then. وَأَهْلِ الرَّأِي, and the people who have a right to give their opinion on that affair, meaning the rulers and the authorities. وَأَهْلِ الْمَشْوَرَةِ, and the people who have a right to be involved in those discussions, the specialists. وَقَدْ يَخُوضُ فِي أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ وَوُلَاةِ الْأُمُورِ. And these people may end up talking about or against or in regards to the rulers and the people of knowledge. وَيَدَّعِي أَنَّهُمْ لَا يُحْسِنُونَ وَأَنَّهُمْ. And they may begin to claim that the scholars and the rulers, they are not good at these affairs, and they don't know this or they don't know that, and they this and they that. They may begin talking against them. وَيَشِيعُ ذَلِكَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. And they spread this amongst the people. كَمَا هُوَ الْوَاقِعُ الْآنِ. As is something that is known right now, the Shaykh says, something that occurs right now. And bear in mind, The Shaykh says this is something that occurs right now. And this explanation of the Shaykh is years and years old. So for how many years has this type of thing been occurring? This speech of the Shaykh isn't from yesterday or today, from years ago when he gave this explanation. From years ago he's talking about people doing these things. He says this is the reality now. Years ago when he was talking and he was giving this explanation. وَهَذَا مِن نَقْصِ دِينِ الْإِنسَانِ. And this is from the deficiency in the religion of a person. فَيَجِبُ عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ أَنْ يَخَافَ عَلَى دِينِهِ. So it is obligatory upon a person that he fears for his religion. فَلَا يَدْخُلُ في شيء ليس من ورائه مصلحة لا له ولا لغيره بل يكون مفسدة. So he must not get himself involved in an affair wherein there is no benefit for him in it nor for people, and instead there is corruption in that affair in his involvement. فعلى المسلم أن يتذكر هذا الحديث. So upon the Muslim is to remember this hadith. وَأَنْ يَجْعَلَهُ مِنْهَاجًا لَهُ فِي حَيَاتِهِ. And that the person makes this a methodology in his life. The methodology being, don't get involved in affairs that do not concern you. As per the hadith. Do not get involved in affairs that do not concern you. That's the methodology. فَمَا كَانَ يَعْنِيهِ وَهُوَ مُكَلَّفٌ بِهِ وَيُحْسِنُ الدُّخُولَ فِيهِ وَيَتَرَتَّبُ عَلَى دُخُولِ فِيهِ مَنْفَعَةٌ عَلَيْهِ أَنْ يَتَدَخَّلَ. So if there is an affair that does concern you and you have been given the responsibility to look into that and delve into it, and you are good at doing so, and there will be benefit upon you getting involved, then get involved. Then a person could get involved. وَمَا كَانَ لَا يُحْسِنُهُ وَلَا يُجْدِي دُخُولُهُ فِيهِ. As for something you're not good at, and neither is it of that benefit or worthy for you to enter into it and be good in that affair, وَلَيْسَ مُكَلَّفًا أَنْ يَدْخُلَ فِيهِ. And neither are you given any responsibility or burden to enter into it. وَلَيْسَ مِنْ شُؤُونِهِ. And this affair is not from your affairs to be involved in. فَعَلَيْهِ تَجَنُّبُهُ. Then you must stay away from it. Don't get involved. وَإِذَا كَانَ يُرِيدُ خَيْرًا فَإِنَّهُ يُبْلِغُ الْمَسْئُولِينَ وَأَهْلَ الْعِلْمِ بِمَا يَحْدُثُ وَبِمَا يَلْتَمِسُ لَهُ الْحُلُولِ. And if a person genuinely wants good, he wants good for the people, for the community, for the society, for the Muslims, he wants good, then in that case the Shaykh says, فَإِنَّهُ يُبْلِغُ الْمَسْئُولِينَ. Then upon him is to inform those in responsibility, to go and inform those in responsibility about the affair and what he may be aware of, and Ahl al-Ilm, and the scholars, to inform them and to take the information to them of what is going on, and to go and seek a solution from them, from the people in authority, from the scholars, to seek a solution from them. فَيَكُونَ مُجَرَّدَ نَاصِحٍ لِلَّهِ وَلِكِتَابِهِ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِأَئِمَّةِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَعَامَّتِهِمْ وَيَرُدُّ الْأُمُورَ إِلَى أَهْلِهَا. Then in that case, if a person treads upon that way, you take the affairs back to the responsible individuals, to the authorities, to the scholars, then you are implementing your nasiha. You've given the nasiha to the rulers, to the scholars, to Allah, your nasiha to yourself and Allah in being sincere, to the messenger, to the book, like the hadith that we covered. You have implemented the nasiha. You have done that then by taking that to the rulers, taking that to the scholars, and returning the affairs back to the people who are deserving of it. And that's why the Shaykh then says, قال تعالى وَلَوْ رَدُّوهُ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ وَإِلَى أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ. If they had only returned it back to the messenger and to the ones in authority over them, the scholars and the rulers, لَعَلِمُوا لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنْبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُمْ. Then the ones who derive those evidences from it, they would have known. They would have known and they would have come to the answer. فَيَرُدُّ الْأَمْرَ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ. So the person must return the affair back to the people who are able. أَمَّا هُوَ فَلَا يَتَدَخَّلُ فِيهِ بِحُكْمٍ وَهُوَ لَيْسَ مِنْ شُؤُونِهِ. As for him, he should not get involved and give a ruling, and that is not from his affairs to do so. وَلَيْسَ لِتَدَخُّلِهِ فِيهِ فَائِدَةٌ. And there is no benefit in him getting involved in that affair. فَهَذَا حَدِيثٌ عَظِيمٌ. So this is a tremendous narration. وَمَنْهَجٌ قَوِيمٌ. And a strong, upright methodology. A strong, upright, established, firm methodology. لو سار عليه كل مسلم لحصل في ذلك الخير الكثير. If all Muslims tread upon that methodology, in not getting involved in affairs that are above you, take it back to the scholars, take it back to the authorities, then there would be al-khayr al-kathir, a great deal of goodness. وَانْحَلَّتِ الْمَشَاكِلِ. And the problems and issues would become clarified, or solutions would be found to them. وَتَآلَفَتِ الْقُلُوبِ. And the hearts would be united upon that one way and one conclusion and one methodology and pathway. وَتَعَاوَنَ الْمُسْلِمُونَ فِيمَا بَيْنَهُمْ. And then the Muslims would all cooperate and work with one another between themselves. لَكِنْ إِذَا صَارَتِ الْأُمُورُ فَوْضًا. But if you don't do that and the affairs all just become chaotic, everything just becomes chaotic, وَكُلٌّ يَتَدَخَّلْ فِيمَا لَا يَعْنِيهِ. And everybody starts getting involved in that which does not concern them. حَصَلَ فِي ذَلِكَ الْفَسَادُ وَالشَّرُّ. Then corruption and evil occurs in that affair. وَاخْتِلَافُ الرَّأْيِ. And then the opinions of people start clashing and differences and all these affairs occur. وَعَدَمُ الثِّقَةِ بِأَهْلِ الْحِلِّ وَالْعَقْلِ وَالْمَسْئُولِينَ. And then eventually there will be those amongst the people who no longer have any trust left in the scholars and the authorities. They no longer have any trust. عَدَمُ الثِّقَةِ بِأَهْلِ الْحِلِّ وَالْعَقْدِ وَالْمَسْئُولِينَ. People will then have a lack of trust in the rulers, in the scholars, in the people of authority. ثُمَّ تَنْتَشِرُ الْفَوْضَى بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Then the chaos spreads amongst the people. وَهَذَا هُوَ وَاقِعُ كَثِيرٍ مِّنَ النَّاسِ الْيَوْمِ. And this is the reality of many people today. تَجِدُهُمْ حَتَّى فِي مَسَائِلِ الْعِلْمِ الصَّعْبَةِ التي لا يحسن الدخول فيها إلا كبار العلماء والأئمة، تجد صغار الطلاب والمتعالمين يتدخلون فيها ويحلون ما شاء الله ويحرمون ويفتون بغير علم وبغير بصيرة. And so the Shaykh says this is something widespread amongst people today. You will find them, he says, even in complex matters of knowledge. Complex matters of knowledge, difficult matters of knowledge. You will see them getting involved in those affairs, and they are not good at those affairs. Those affairs that only the senior scholars should be speaking about and getting involved in. تجد صغار الطلاب والمتعالمين يتدخلون فيها. You find the small students of knowledge, and maybe not even students of knowledge, but only muta'alimin, pretenders to knowledge, getting involved in those affairs, those complex matters, and not just getting involved in those complex matters of aqeedah and other affairs, whatever it may be, but yuhilluna, meaning they resolve them, they find the answer for you. Maybe the Salaf have been discussing a particular issue and the scholars have differed over it for years, for hundreds of years. Then they come along, they investigate everything, and they've got an answer for you. This is the answer. This is the conclusion. I found the answer. They used to say to us at the University of Medina, when you do your thesis, your master's thesis, your PhD thesis, that's an in-depth level of research. For 4 years, you're going to be researching that one topic. Every book you can find, hundreds of books, you're going to be reading into them about that topic. You're going to know a lot of details about it. Here, there, everywhere. If there were differences of opinion in that subject of yours, you're going to investigate all of those differences of opinion. Every book you can find of all of the scholars of the Salaf, centuries and centuries, you're going to research 4 years worth. And if it's an issue that was differed over, at the end, you can say that I believe from all of this research that such and such an opinion appears to be the correct opinion. That kind of thing, no problem. But they would say, don't you dare come along and say that after all of this research, this opinion is the correct one. That's it. They said, who do you think you are? You've done some research now for 4 years, and even 4 years. The scholars you're quoting from probably researched into that topic 40 years. All of their lives when they wrote about that topic. So they used to say, don't you dare come along and tell me it is this and it cannot be the other one. And you have scholars for 1400 years researching and analyzing that topic. I'll give you an example. One of my classmates from the University of Medina, when he did his PhD on Sahih al-Bukhari. And Sahih al-Bukhari, at the beginning, there's the book, or the introduction known as Hadith Sari. But some scholars, they say it's called Huda As-Sari. Just the name of the book. Is it Hadith Sari or Huda As-Sari? The meaning of both is the same almost. He concluded after all of his research that there's no solid evidence to say it's Hadith Sari. Even though now everywhere you go they say Hadith Sari. He concluded after all his research, there's no solid evidence to say it's Hadith Sari. It's Huda As-Sari. So in his PhD thesis, he wrote that. It's Huda As-Sari. I can't find any evidence established that it's Hadith Sari. So in the Viva, they call it, when the professors, when you finish your thesis, you finish your PhD, you have to have a verbal examination. So the professors read your thesis, you sit there with your thesis in front of you, and the professors will say to you, go to page 146 of your thesis. So you go to it. They say, on that page you wrote X, Y, and Z. Why did you write that? You have to explain everything. So when he was doing his interview, his debate, his exam, they said to him, so you wrote down that the name of the book is Huda As-Sari. It's not Hadith Sari. He said, yeah, Sheikh, everything I checked, there's no evidence solid proving it's Hadith Sari. He said, how can you possibly say that? How can you possibly, after all these hundreds of years, with so many scholars coming to the conclusion that it is Hadith Sari, you cannot give a conclusion like that and say, no, that's it. Me, after my 2 or 3 years, 4 years, I found it. I got the answer. All these scholars after hundreds of years couldn't, but I found it. It is Huda. He said, no, you can't say it like that. Don't be confident to that kind of level. And that's why the scholars, you'll notice, when they talk about topics with differences of opinion, even if they take an opinion themselves, obviously often they do, they will always say, you'll notice in the books of the scholars of old especially and today, they'll say at the end, these are the opinions, such and such scholar said this, such and such scholar said that, and I believe that X, Y, and Z is the correct opinion. Wallahu a'lam. As far as I can see, that seems to be correct, and they've researched that topic maybe 40 years. As far as I can see, that seems to be correct. Wallahu a'lam. And Allah knows best. Unlike some of them these days when they come, those PhDs and things, it is like this. And then they get told in the Viva, what do you mean it is like this? Calm yourself down a little bit. So here the Shaykh says, there are certain types of topics people get themselves involved in, difficult topics, some small students of knowledge or pretenders to knowledge, and they find the answer that scholars for centuries couldn't find. MashaAllah, they found it. They resolved it. وَيُحَرِّمُونَ. And maybe they declare something to be haram, or they declare something to be halal in topics where they researched a particular issue. وَيُفْتُونَ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. And they give fatwa without knowledge. وَبِغَيْرِ بَصِيرَةٍ. And without insight. فيجب أن يتخذ هذا الحديث منهجا ومسلكا لكل مسلم. So this hadith, it needs to be taken as your manhaj, as your methodology, as your maslak, as your path that you tread upon. وَمُتَعَلِّمًا كَانَ أَوْ جَاهِلًا. Whether you are somebody educated or you are somebody ignorant, everybody the same. This is your methodology. That you do not get involved in affairs that do not concern you. Affairs that are only for the scholars, they are for the rulers, they are for those people, it is for them. And this problem exists greatly amongst the Khawarij, because they want to get involved in everything that is supposed to be from the duties of the rulers. They think they are the ruler. They want to make all the decisions. No, the ruler should have done this, the ruler should have done that, this is kufr, this is this, this is that. As though they are the rulers. They think they are in the authority and the position to decide everything the ruler should be doing. And every time the ruler does something they don't like, he did this wrong, he did that wrong, he did this wrong, he did that wrong. They are for the rulers to decide upon those affairs, for the ulama, the scholars, the people of authority. But the Khawarij in particular, and the Ikhwanis and the likes, they get involved in all of those affairs that are not their affairs to be involved in. And they give khutbahs every week, rebuking the rulers and speaking against them, and the ruler did this, and the ruler of that country did this, and this country did that, and this ruler made a mistake, and that ruler made a mistake. Getting involved in affairs that has nothing to do with them, and they have no ability to be involved in those affairs. So this is an important hadith. The Shaykh says every Muslim needs to remember that and be aware of not getting involved in affairs that do not concern you. Remember, these narrations, we're not just here reading them and forget them. You're here to read these ahadith, to learn the sunnah and implement it. So remember all of these narrations one by one as we go through them, and implement them in your lives when things come up and affairs arise. So that's what we'll conclude today then. Next time we'll continue with hadith number 13, which is the hadith regarding none of you truly believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. So that from the next session, inshaAllah ta'ala. We'll conclude upon that for today. Isha is coming in. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.